on recruiting, and we hope we have some tools or resources or ideas that will be able to assist you in your restaurants. And so I'm going to jump right in here. This first question is for our recruiting folks, our talent acquisition folks. With the cost of turnover for hourly being around $2,000 per employee and for managers $14,000, how do you see this impacting your recruiting process?
So yeah, that is extraordinary numbers, and it is really important to make a good decision on the front end. It's something we've really focused on, especially at Whataburger, where we're a 24-hour business. It's really, I guess, important that people understand what the cost of the business is for them and their family, especially hiring in at the manager level and them having to work some of those overnight shifts. So really laying good expectations about realistic what the job is, and also paying a good wage, paying a salary that's equal to the task at hand. Of course, we pay excellent, in my opinion, for this job. And as far as hourly, it's just really important also to be competitive in salaries. With the thought process out there, our team members would hop a job for a quarter, a dime sometimes. So paying a good wage on the front end. And for our company, we do semi-annual performance reviews with an opportunity to get an increase every 6 months. So that's really helped us there.
I agree with making sure that everything is happening on the front end. So at Pappas, we put a lot of effort into the selection process and really hiring for culture in our restaurants. I've been with the company for 18 years, and I think that speaks volumes about the way that our company treats our people. And it starts from the hourly perspective for sure. We've got some pretty high standards. We're kind of known as the military of the restaurant industry, making sure that people have the right uniforms, they're upholding our standards. But even from a managerial perspective, we're going to talk more about this later, but we promote about 80% of our managers from within, and that's a real easy way to kind of know what you're getting ahead of time without taking a chance on that $14,000 cost. But even when we do hire externally, we have a very thorough process. We have personality assessments that we have our managers take. We do real life work shadows before somebody joins us in an effort to show them what the environment's going to look like. And really from the interviewing perspective, making sure that we understand what the candidate's career goals are, and do we truly have available for them what they're looking for. That's very, very important to us.
Thank you. Great. Aaron, what are you seeing right now as some trends with respect to Indeed in relation to this audience here, the restaurant world? It's very competitive. You guys see the data. What are some things that you're seeing that, from a data side or in this space that might be able to give them some insights or help?
So that's it's an amazing question because of how little we know about job seekers. So the number one search on Indeed today, and I think a lot of you will be surprised to hear this, is actually nothing. The number one search on Indeed is a blank query, so it means there's nothing in the what box, and there's just a location in the location box. And to us, a lot of what we've been doing in terms of innovation is trying to figure out intention. So is it that people just want a job, any job, and it's how do we get your job in front of that candidate? The other huge trend that we're seeing today is, and again, I don't think this should be surprising, but mobile. When I started at Indeed 5 years ago, we had 54% of all of our traffic came from mobile device. And I remember being at a conference, and I remember the speaker getting up and he was saying, we got to be ready because mobile is coming. And I remember walking out and being like, well, this is stupid, mobile's here. But he was right. So today we see 65% of all traffic is mobile. In the food and restaurant services space, we see 78% of traffic mobile. And again, that's going to continue to evolve. I know Samsung just released a phone that actually bends in half. So what is that going to do to our mobile processes? Can you have a job description on one side and an application process on the other side? So I think the two biggest trends for us is really how do we get our jobs in front of people who may not even have heard of us or know we're that looking for the same type of role, and the other one is how do we make sure that our processes are quick and easy, especially on a mobile device.
Good. And I want to add to that because you guys need to go back and do an audit of your current, website, career site, your apply process. And if you don't have a way for a candidate to be able to apply to your job via phone, then you're behind the 8 ball and your competition's ahead of you. So definitely that's something to consider talking about, making sure you have a job board on your site. All of these guys do. It makes it an effective way for candidates to find you guys. So I'm going to jump back into some of the recruiting questions here. All right. I'm sure everybody's struggling with this. So recruiting hourly candidates is a big struggle right now. What are some of your best practices or out-of-the-box resources to find hourly candidates?
So I would say hands down our community partners, being involved in our local communities, especially in those areas where the applicant flow is very lean. It's important to be out in the community, to get your name out there, to get recognition, and drive people to our website. I just want to piggyback on something you said about or maybe it was you, about the website being easy to use. Just a simple thing that they would have to scroll down to hit the search button has made such a huge difference, where we get so many calls a day that says well, we couldn't find how to apply, and it was really strictly scrolling down. So something as simple as that to us may be a given, but to the candidates it's a difficult process. But I would, back to our community partners, just having that FaceTime with our candidates makes a big difference, especially when you're wanting to be the employer choice and express your culture in your business. The best way is to have that FaceTime with the candidates.
I totally agree. We do a lot of face-to-face recruiting at Pappas, and again, because we're hiring that hourly candidate that we're hoping maybe can go farther, maybe even to a supervisory role while they're in school, we're really holding those standards very high. But that's not something that you can see through your ATS online. And for those of you that don't have an ATS and don't have people applying online, I totally feel you. We only got ours a year ago. Like, it really is kind of crazy. We were on paper applications for a very long time, but it really has helped manage the process and allowed us to kind of weed through some of the people that maybe, we would have had our managers spending time on that weren't necessarily candidates, because it does show a commitment if you're willing to go in there and fill out that information. But when it comes down to outside of the box, I don't know how outside of the box this is, but we count a lot on our referrals. We birds of a feather, right? So we really want our candidates, our current employees bringing people to us. A lot of our front of the house staff are in school, so if we've got U of H right down the street, then we want them talking to their friends, and those are the people that we want to bring into work for us. Flexible schedules for sure. Again, front of the house versus back of the house, very different, but in the front of the house, if you can get one fantastic candidate that can work, maybe 2 days a week because they're really heavily involved in school, we really look at that as a much better practice than just bringing somebody in that's willing to work Monday through Friday for those lunch shifts that you can't cover. And then for back of the house too, really, tapping into some of the local places that are going to give you those people, the culinary institutes, again, the schools that are teaching these skills to your potential candidates. And then with management for us, we do a lot of college recruiting, so again, going back to face-to-face, where we will post on the university website and things of that nature. We really try to get in front of the students in person, guest lectures, trying to make sure that we are constant at career fairs, really knowing who else is out there and who your competition is, and knowing those recruiters too, and how can we help each other. And I think that there's a lot of different conferences and things like that you can participate in to get to know those people. Beth and I met through Meeting of the Minds, which is Self Opportunity's annual conference, where we all recruiters talk amongst each other, and we share salaries and all those kinds of things that we need to know about each other.
Aaron, did you want to add a little something?
Yeah, I wanted to add one real quick thing, because I think when it comes to out of the box, the thing we have to focus on is, and we all say it, but do we actually believe it, is it's a candidate market today. The unemployment rate is less than 4%. And I was speaking to, and this would probably apply to the same type of talent, but I was speaking to a GM at a very popular hotel chain, and he was saying that he has a huge problem from people applying to actually showing up to the interview, which is probably something we all struggle with. So what he realized is he was hiring housekeepers, and what he would do is he would say, okay, my hours are 9 to 5. They'll come in at some point during my hours, and nobody would show up because housekeepers from 9 to 5 are working their current job. So what he started doing is he started interviewing people at night. So when they finished their job, he would, sit down in the cafe of the hotel, and they'd have a cup of coffee. And not only did he see people actually start to show up, but one of the things when we research with job seekers that they're looking for is a company that builds trust. And for them, it was, this is about me, this isn't about you. So I know we say, it's a candidate market, we got to do what's best for the candidate, but do we really do that? I mean, I think even in our personal lives, it's always, hey, look at my calendar and grab some time. It's never when are you available. So I think if we're going to make it about the candidate, we really do have to make it about the candidate. And I think, especially in the retail world where people will literally leave for 5-10 cents, we've had, I was speaking to a restaurant, and they had somebody stop at a McDonald's on the way to the interview and end up with a job there, on the way to the interview to the next place. So we really have to make it about them, and I think they'll show up, and hopefully we'll hire more people.
That's great. And I want to add a little to that as well. So I'm sure you guys have seen or heard about the ProStart program since you've been here. And that's one thing that the TRA and the TRAEF are really passionate about. The new CEO, Emily Knight, is very passionate about it. You've seen some of the kids doing cooking demos. So we're trying to create a pathway for those students to come into workforce opportunities with you guys. So look at that, make yourself aware of when those things are going on. Ask your local chapter what schools in my city or support the ProStart program, because you'd rather give back to kids that are involved in this industry. So the TRA has a job board that we're trying to get connected folks like you and the students at these schools, so you guys can hire these people and kind of create this pathway. Okay, this is a good one. I'm going to put you on the spot with these two recruiters. So recruiters, we've got one of the top job boards here. What are you seeing that they're doing, and how could they be more helpful in helping these folks? This is your chance to tell Indeed, hey, give us some more tools and tricks. Yeah, be nice. So.
Okay. I don't know. I kind of go back to, I want to know what my competition is doing. I want to know who else out there is getting the candidates that I want and why. So I think really more it goes back to benchmarking, right? Like how does my organization stand up to everybody else, and where am I missing the mark? And we do have an opportunity, again, when we get in front of other recruiters at this conference that we go to every year, but that's an ongoing thing. I remember one of the first things my director of recruiting taught me was that you constantly have to be absorbing information from what's going on in other restaurant companies. It can't just be that we think we're the best, and that's every time you interact with somebody, asking questions and not being afraid to share the information back, because nobody wants to talk to the guy that's going to be like, so how much do you pay your managers? And then, you either lie about it or you just omit, right? So that's something that I'm very interested in, is how does my culture and my pay and all those things match up?
So the good news is we are doing some stuff around that. So I work as part of our employer insights team, which rolls up into our U.S. marketing team, and we now have an industry marketing team. So specific for a few verticals, and quick service restaurants is one of them. It's tough for us to benchmark a company against a company, but what we're trying to see is when people leave the industry, where do they go? And what we found is that while you're all competitors with each other, you're all competitors with Uber, with a lot of these other industries as well, because people will just switch to whatever. So it is something we're definitely working on. I think the main thing to focus on is, who is your competition for talent? So I'm based in Austin, which is our tech headquarters, so our competition for talent is, Amazon, Google, Facebook, et cetera. But our New York office is a sales office. Their competition is, any other, these Chase and JP Morgan, all these companies that are sales companies. So I think just in your local area, think about who the competition is. And honestly, go on Indeed, look at company pages, look at what, the titles and descriptions that you're using. In many cases, you can see salaries. They'll put it in the job description, and you'll know what the kind of your benchmark. But obviously, we have work to do, and it is something we are focusing on.
You want to add anything?
No, I was just like, I missed the Indeed Interactive in Austin. I wasn't able to go, but I heard some great things from it. But since I wasn't able to go, from you, I'd like to see some webinars. on maybe some recruiting tactics, or, just expert advice on that. That would be great.
And one thing he mentioned is if you haven't gone and claimed your company page on Indeed, it's just a way to kind of have some of your reputation out there. Same thing on Glassdoor. You need to go and claim those pages so that way if somebody's doing some research on you, I'm going to go one more, you need to do it on LinkedIn as well. So you want to make sure that message is consistent across all of those places where a candidate might come and see or read about your business. And so Indeed has kind of a free page. You can always upgrade, but definitely take advantage of that, because if your company page is clean and shows your culture, that those people that are clicking on that job that you might have advertised on there are going to go and read a little bit about them. So definitely take a look at that. I wanted to hear what you guys are doing around social recruiting, because right now there's so many different ways that you can get your jobs in front of people with an employer branding play or just kind of targeting an audience. And so whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, what are you guys doing, testing, thinking about testing, and have you seen any success?
That has been a great focus for us over maybe the last 2 years, specifically on LinkedIn. We've used it as a social platform for not only posting our jobs and recruiting there, but also getting the face of our company, our culture, things that we're doing, just to entice people to, I want to work at Whataburger, and it's really worked super well. Another thing that we've been doing is using Facebook as a tool for, like I said before, those little niche neighborhoods where it's really difficult to get candidate flow. I've posted and done things on the Beg, Barter, and Steal pages and job boards and things like that, and that's worked well as well, because I get instant messages back and forth from the candidates, which we said it before, just getting in front of the candidates, having that interaction, you can really be the face of your company and let them know personally what opportunities you have. So that's a couple of things that we've been doing at Whataburger.
All good ideas. We're big on LinkedIn as well, and I think that that's our main source. We kind of are most comfortable utilizing LinkedIn from a social media perspective. Our company page is a place that we post jobs. We make sure that anything that we're doing in the community is being highlighted so our culture can be visualized by the person who's checking out our jobs. But even, my own personal LinkedIn page, I really look at that as, it's kind of Pappas's Tammy, not necessarily Tammy's Tammy, because most of what I'm showing on there is what I'm capable of. And I think through my story, a lot of people can understand what a pathway might look like within the organization and the advancement opportunities that are there. So, even this particular event that we were doing, we got a whole marketing campaign that we could use to just, kind of talk about what we're going to be talking about on stage at this event. So I think LinkedIn is a big one for us. Also, they have a search feature at LinkedIn that I really like, because I can be a little more proactive in my searching. So similar to what Beth is probably doing in terms of finding those niche little markets, with LinkedIn you can search particular areas of the United States if you really need to narrow down your applicant pool from everybody else who's out there.
Add a little to that. So there's like 3 ways you can advertise on Facebook effectively for your recruiting. One is, kind of traditional consumer, a post just saying, hey, I'm looking to hire folks. And then you can always add some marketing budget to that to kind of maybe get more eyes on it. Think of that as like what you do to get people to come to your restaurants. Number 2 is an event. Definitely you guys could have a little hiring event. You can promote that. It shows up on the calendar feed. You can promote that through some extra budget as well. But if you aren't taking advantage of the new Facebook job board, then you're missing out again, because that's a free piece. If you just kind of scroll down on the left, you'll see a little suitcase or something, and you can click on that, and you can definitely, it'll ask you, hey, do you want to post a job? It even has tutorials on how to post jobs there. So that's technically free. And again, same thing, you can boost that. So if you're not doing those 3 things when you kind of come up with a Facebook strategy, the other thing is Snapchat. We've been testing that with some clients. You can geo-target over a particular location, create a little a filter of some kind, show that you're hiring, and then kind of guide them back to your career site that tells about the opportunities that you have. So those are some other social things you can play with. I think we still have some pretty good time here. So there's this one that we kind of touched on it a little bit. I think all three of us can kind of collaborate here. So we talked about wages being a hot topic for the restaurant industry. So what else are you guys doing competitive to hire great talent? And now that we know there's kind of this gig economy that allows workers to cash out daily, others allow you to borrow against future earnings. Have y'all seen anything like that? Are y'all considering anything like that? Or what are you guys thinking about that one?
Well, one thing for us is we pay weekly, which is a huge draw. We have not dipped into the pay now thing, but that potential, I guess. But just the weekly pay, and again, not just the pay, but the flexible schedules. Most people out there, or a lot of people out there, have 2 jobs, and so we're very flexible to work with their second job. And many of our teenagers work 1 to 2 days a week. We're very flexible with school schedules. That's the biggest thing going into their junior and senior years, is they're worried about not being able to get off for prom and all the different activities that they have. So we really market that to our millennials and our school kids, that we will work with your schedule. So it's not always just about the dollar amount. For them, it's about, can I do what I need to do with my friends? So I think that's a big draw. We also have scholarships. That's super important, even with the parents. A lot of times I recruit the kids through the parents because of our scholarship opportunities working with us. And then again, they only have to work 1 to 2 days a week to get that. So that's a great draw for us.
Beth, I think you hit it right on the head there with having those programs. But to me, the most important part of, again, we've now recently seen wages grow with the unemployment rate going down, and for a while it's kind of stayed stagnant. But the biggest thing that we're not doing is we're not promoting some of those things we're doing. So obviously we can't always pay more, but if we pay differently, so again, as Brian mentioned, in the gig world, some places you can cash out daily. At some companies you can cash out, I think, up to half of what you've already made, or you can even go against your future earnings. But the biggest thing we're not seeing, especially like on a job site like Indeed, is we're not seeing people promote that. So I was at a conference and they were talking about job descriptions, and they were saying how in a traditional job description we talk about us, the skills, the requirements, the licenses, all that stuff. Maybe we sprinkle in some benefits. What's a requirement at its core? It's what you need to have before you can come talk to me, and a benefit's what I'm giving you. So the speaker was saying that we should have more benefits, or at least more or equal to the amount of requirements. What I'm giving you is far more than I'm requiring. But the whole room freaked out because this was a room of CNAs, which is also an hourly role. It's usually around minimum wage. And they all said, we don't have benefits. We don't have 401ks. We don't have that. And she said, I'm glad you freaked out, because they did a survey of 1,000 CNAs, and the #1 benefit they were all looking for was getting paid on time. Again, maybe not something we traditionally thought to include in our job descriptions, but those types, again, the reimbursement, the flexible time, the getting paid weekly or just paid, whatever we're doing, make sure we're broadcasting that, because that could be the differentiator between a job seeker clicking on your jobs and clicking on some of your competitors.
And that's a good point, is go back and look at your job postings. Think about it as, is a candidate going to be able to find your job title? You might have some creative, sandwich, wizard maker, that's Google's or Indeed's not going to find that. It is what it is. You need to just be kind of basic, but yet have some of these other pieces of the content, so that way it can be found on the search results. And kind of speaking of that too, how many of you guys knew that Google now posts or lets you post jobs? A couple? Yeah. So and this is something that I might even let Aaron elaborate on, is so Google is where everybody goes for consumer searches, but now they're doing kind of something similar Indeed did, was just aggregating job results. So now all of you would want your restaurant to be found on Google, right? Safe to say? Now if your jobs aren't being found on Google, then again you're playing behind the curve with your competition. So that's why you need to go look at your career site, look at your job board, look at your applicant tracking system, what Tammy said here, because Google or those applicant tracking systems help get your jobs there too. So, and that's one thing that, I don't know, what have you guys seen with the Google Jobs, or because it's kind of in your sandbox?
So Google Jobs is interesting for us. We actually don't participate right now in the Google for Jobs, and our traffic has still been on a steady incline. But what I will say as a marketer, and I'm not in sales, and if anyone in sales at Indeed was here, they'd kill me, but put your jobs anywhere where job seekers are. So whether that's Indeed, whether that's Google, whether that's Facebook, whether that's any of our other competitors, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're going back to the data and seeing where job seekers are coming from, and ultimately which ones you're hiring. So we're not seeing, a huge, again, against necessarily Indeed. It's still about the same in terms of traffic. But we are seeing the more people are optimizing for a search engine, because Indeed is a search engine, Google's a search engine, where some of these other sites are more job boards. It's actually helped our SEO. So to your point, we're seeing a lot less taste captains and some of the jobs that won't traditionally be found. So people are now thinking more search engine, which is again helping people. I mean, a server's a server's a server. You can call it whatever you want, but job seekers aren't going to find it, especially those who've been a server for a long time are going to search server. So it's just something to think about, and I think ultimately it kind of hasn't hurt us, and it's a little bit helped us in a little bit.